we need some big thinkers. Meet today's panel. Firstly, the author who happily admits she only writes because it's cheaper than therapy. The brazen and brilliant Cathy Lett. Next to Cathy, our resident top-notch debater, broadcaster Nick Ferrari. And thirdly, author of Everyday Sexism, with a lot to say on today's topic, Laura Bates. So, Laura, you get to kick off, so this is still a problem.
Absolutely. I mean, I think really the figures speak for themselves on this issue. We know from a recent poll that 1 in 3 16 to 18-year-old girls experiences unwanted sexual touching at school, that 71% of the same age group say that they hear girls being called slut and slag at school on a regular basis. We know that over 30,000 women a year lose their jobs in the UK as a direct result of maternity discrimination, that over 2 women per week are killed by a current or former partner, 400,000 women every year sexually assaulted. And, you know, I've got the Everyday Sexism Project, which has collected 80,000 women and girls' experiences of anything from being discriminated against in the workplace to being shouted at in the street. It happens to me. It happened to me yesterday that somebody shouted a really sexually explicit and aggressive comment about my breasts. And every day, because of doing what I do and just talking about these issues, I receive a barrage of rape threats and death threats. So I find it hard that anyone could argue that sexism isn't still a problem.
Nick?
Right, we've got 2 or 3 strands running here. Not for 1 second would I defend schoolgirls being inappropriately touched, and of course it's absolutely wrong that you get death threats. But when you started talking about sexism in the workplace, that is where I fear we might have to part, because you have to accept that in many cases men are attracted to women, sometimes women are attracted to men, men are even attracted to men, sometimes it really doesn't matter, and they're going to meet in the workplace. And what has happened now is that it is almost the workplace. I'm not talking about inappropriate touching, and I'm not talking about a girl being made to stand on a chair so that everyone can look at her legs. Of course that's wrong. But you mentioned the cases respectfully. Many of those simply did not need to go to the courts. It's a woman who claims she's offended because, and by the way, when I say to people, love or darling, it's unfortunately a fault of mine. I can't remember anybody's name. Sometimes I call him honey all the time because I struggle with his name sometimes. So the only reason I would say, pass me the stapler, honey, or what could you answer the phone, my love, is that I just can't remember them. I'm not hitting on them, but we've now moved to the situation where many of those cases go to the courts, and it's plain wrong. No. It's just wrong.
Let me get Cathy again. Cool.
I would say, I don't think there's ever been a sexual harassment case brought because someone called someone honey or love. We're talking about real sexual harassment, and every woman I know has had something like this happen to them. The very first job I had when I was 21 in television, I went in for my interview. There were 8 male executives. The boss slapped $10 on the table and said to me, I bet I can make your breasts move without touching them. Oh. And of course I just go, oh, okay. So he leans over, mauls me, and then says, you won, there's the $10. So I immediately, not being stupid, put $20 on the table and said, I bet I can make your testicles move without touching, and kicked him between the legs.
This is extreme. I'd like to think that 99% of men were not like that. But we have Rupert Murdoch now talking about considering taking the page 3 girl, the bare-breasted page 3 girl, out of the Sun. This you two presumably regard as a step forward. Is that a good idea?
I think the market needs to decide. I have been a fervent supporter, and I've worked on the Sun, and I've written articles years ago defending page 3, and I've done interviews. I sense now the world has probably moved on. They've actually run a few days without it, and listen, tabloid newspapers are nothing if not smart. If they don't know about something, they deliberately don't put it in, and they see how many people ring, email, or complain. My understanding is no one said anything. I think probably its day has come.
Oh, it just has equal sexism. If we're going to have topless women, have bottomless men. Let's be fair.
No, really. No, you really wouldn't want it.
And also, I'd have to go across pages 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So it'd be half the payment.
But today you're talking out of it. Because sexual harassment in the workplace is a really important issue to women.
We need to differentiate, don't we, between things that you mentioned that any, right-minded man would deplore. There is, I think Nick's making the point, that there is a danger of it going too far. And we've all had things, well, I've not shouted at me, really.
Well, there's still time.
It is offensive. But then women who are offended by wolf whistles, isn't that just classic builder's behaviour and you think, oh, heck, you know, carry on walking. Or is
Are you offended?
is that
Well, I think in
offensive?
these cases it's really important that we differentiate between attraction and harassment. I just don't buy this claim that men will be attracted to women, therefore women should deal with harassment in the workplace. I think the vast majority of men know perfectly well whether they're paying a woman a compliment or whether they're sexually harassing her. And I really reject your claim that many cases of a woman just taking offensive and nothing are reaching the court.
Let me respond to that.
Are you offended by a wolf whistle?
I don't like the idea that a 14 or 15-year-old girl in the street, thousands of whom have written into my project...
I respectfully asked you, you're not 15.
Are you offended by it?
Laura, can I make the point here?
It's something I've been dealing with since I was 15.
Can I make the point here that a lot of 12, 13, 14 and 15-year-old girls are now walking down the street barely covered. I see crop tops on girls of 12 and skirts up here. In a way, now, I hate to say that thing which men say they're asking for it, but it strikes me if a girl of 14 walks past a building site in a crop top and a short skirt, she's probably going to get whistled at and worse. I'm not condoning it, I'm just being realistic.
It's incredible, Alan, that in 2014 you can sit here and say that.
I'm not condoning it, it's reality. I'm not different. No, you see, this is it. You are confusing observing something with defending and condoning it, which I do not
tell
hear.
you that your observation is misguided because the vast majority of girls we hear from, this happens more when they're in their school uniform than at any other time. This is not about young girls titillating or asking for abuse. This is about a culture that sends the message to men that women's bodies in public spaces.
But do you deny that a lot of young girls today, because of pressure from reading online things, go about inappropriately dressed too early on? I'm a father of daughters. You know, I had to watch the way they dressed when they were young. They're older now. Surely, Cathy, this is a problem. It happens.
Of course it is, but that's the problem of the pressure on girls that they have to be judged on their looks because women suffer from not racial but facial prejudice. We're judged on our looks all the time in a way that men aren't. I mean, for women, wordplay is foreplay. How else is Woody Allen still getting laid? So you guys can just, you know, we appreciate you for your minds, but women are too often judged on their looks.
Thank God, by the way. Can we keep it that way?
It's an argument we could spend the entire show discussing. These are fascinating ones, valid points made. I would like to think by all sides, and as I say, not condoning, but observations. And what you say, Laura, in vast majority, I entirely agree with. Thank you, team, for their thoughts. That's Cathy, Nick, and Laura. Thank you very much.